You can have the best video in the world, but the title's terrible and the thumbnail's terrible, it will do nothing.
I'm your host, and on today's show, we have Charlie Johnson.
The only thing that matters on YouTube is three things. One is the title, two, it's the thumbnail, and then there's the retention of the video.
Now, he's not only gone on to build personal training business.
People struggle with their business sometimes because you're trying to sell how to get a six-pack, but you've never had a six-pack.
Gone on now to help business owners grow and scale their business.
Which is exactly what I sell to other people. It's like we help you solve the problems that you don't even know how to solve yet, or you can't even see.
When did you realise that you had a personal brand?
There was a gym I used to work at and that had a couple of people with like decent social media followings back there, and I was like, I just saw what was happening. It's like the law of exposure 101.
And that was worth capitalising on.
I can basically get people to get traffic for free. Well, I could do that. Other people are doing it. If you can see someone else doing the thing, gives you the self-belief you can go and do it, and which is why we learn through like mirroring.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Kelly Lumber podcast. I'm your host, and on today's show we have Charlie Johnson. Now, he's not only gone on to build personal training business, but gone on now to help business owners grow and scale their business. And what I find personally really impressive is he's really cracked the code on turning what is his personal brand into a client generating machine. We talk about ads, we talk about social media platforms, we give real tactical information on how you can grow not just your personal brand and business. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Kelly Lumber podcast. It's great to have you here, Charlie.
Thank you for the invite, and I'm very excited for, I think it's going to be the first podcast you've done or video in this type of style, which will be different.
Yes, so you're my little guinea pig. But we first met about 6 or 7 months ago, and it was actually through Daniel Priestley that introduced us. And it was a really lovely, I think fondly a lot about that afternoon, where he basically got, 20 entrepreneurs together in Dubai. He was visiting and invited us out for an evening in the desert. And I met so many fantastic people, and you were one of the people that I met there. And I was like, I'd love to have Charlie on my podcast. What did you take away from that little get together?
I think the network of people there, and also from completely different industries, is interesting, because I think when you are from a certain part of the world in terms of what you do, you get maybe fed a certain narrative where you've got different people from completely different backgrounds and different industries and different thought processes. I found the conversations from that probably very eye-opening. Jeremy Harbour had a couple of things he said to remember to me, and Frankie Lee, we were like completely kind of melted our brains. I think that is the value of getting around the right people, is it just changes your perspective.
I really, really enjoyed it. So as I've started the last few podcasts, I've done a little bit of research, because I think when people talk about personal brands, now most people go to ChatGPT. And I think before it used to be Google and you are who Google says you are, but I went to ChatGPT and I've got this. Is this the right Charlie? To be honest, it took me a little bit to find, because Charlie Johnson, there's
common name.
It was more American basketball, baseball players there. I did find you. So I've got Charlie Johnson as a prominent fitness entrepreneur and transformation coach, originally from the UK, now operating online. And I liked how it said reportedly based in Dubai. But Dubai's been your home for how long?
I've lived here for 3.5 years, and I make an obscene amount of content around Dubai and in Dubai, so I'm surprised it doesn't know that more.
And then this bit, struggled with flat feet as a teenager, which led him to quit sports and gain weight, earning him the nickname Fat Charlie. He eventually returned to an active lifestyle through rugby and skiing and developed a passion for weight training. And then your coaching business started. Became a qualified personal trainer in 2008 and later competed in bodybuilding. He also landed a sponsorship with Adapt Nutrition and was featured in Muscle and Fitness. Lauded is one of the top 3 fitness coaches globally by Forbes and recognised as a transformation coach, making significant impact across the UK. He's built a strong digital presence through content marketing, ads, which we're going to talk about today, and automation, helping scale his business and brand visibility. And that was where it is. But I think I know you now is not just that. You're actually helping other entrepreneurs and business owners grow their business online. So what do you think of that? And what would you add to that?
I haven't been called Fat Charlie for a while. Well, actually, I don't think I've ever been called that, so I think that's probably the first thing. I think.
But I have to say, I did not make this up. This is what came online.
I think
so
I
now
probably need to try and push some more SEO out there. So I think a lot of it is, I think it's interesting in terms of like the backstory. The Forbes thing is pretty cool. And I think what I think is interesting is when everyone is thinking about where they are right now or where they're going, but you often don't spend enough time actually looking at like where you've come from. A lot of the time, like this is a really good thing I recommend for anyone to do is if you ever have moments of self-doubt or you're lacking happiness or fulfillment, whatever, look where you were 5 years ago. Like go on your phone, just scroll 5 years back in like photos, or like 10 years ago. And I find that very interesting in terms of 6 years ago or 6.5 years ago, I left my full-time job. So it's like you start to give you context of where you are and how quickly life can change when you just keep putting like one foot in front of another.
Have you ever read the book, The Gap and the Gain?
Yeah, it's a great book.
And I think that piece is very much, instead of looking at the gap of where you are, which even I think successful people are very guilty of, they're looking in the gap, not the gain. And I think that's what you're saying, look back as to where you came from. So what is it that got you into the PT piece? Is that the piece for yourself? And then what was the next steps?
For me, it's always, my obsession has always been progression and like improving everything I do, which is why business was such a natural game for me to play. And I use the word game because I see it as a game. I see social media as a game. Mike, who's filming this right now, like sees it as a game in terms of like YouTube analytics. How can we get 1 of 10? I just turn everything into like gamification, and I like competition. So for me, the fitness side of things gave me that ability, particularly like say from the gym, to be able to control everything. It's like a solo thing, there's no one else involved, versus team sports. And then when you come into business, it's the exact same principle. So the two kind of like lean together. I always say fitness was the greatest gift that I ever got, because the character traits and the values you get from that are then what make you successful in business. So it's delayed gratification, it's hard work, it's discipline, doing the thing we don't want to do it. And like, I think those entrepreneurs who might be watching or listening to this, who either are in great shape but aren't successful, or are not in great shape but want to be more successful, you need to kind of lean on the other person side of your personality, because you have the ability there.
Notice that in my own business, the more I've invested in my personal health and growth, my business has exploded even more. Even through trying harder, it's a mindset thing, or what else would you add to that?
I would say it's confidence. And when you get confidence, you get momentum, you get more momentum, you get confidence. Because I think if you wake up every day and you look in the mirror and you're happy with the way you look, that's like the first sign of confidence, because you know you can control that. Whereas business, you can't control what happens in the economy, you can't control whether the Russia-Ukraine war ends today with the meeting with Trump. Like, none of us can control these things. So what you can control is yourself. Firstly, with the way you look and how you look after your body.
What would you describe as your kind of brand values, or your personal brand values? Have you got sort of 3 or 4?
I would say consistency,
Yep.
optimism, future thinking.
I should ask your team here. So pushing, I guess it's pushing boundaries, I think, maybe.
Yeah, it's pushing the limits. And I think actually one of the amazing things that happened over this weekend was the Alex Ramosi event with his book launch. And even for me, and I was at their head office literally a week ago today, it really changed my perception in terms of what's possible.
Wow.
So I was like, and even when I was there, to give some context to this, I was like, why have they got all these backup power generators outside? And I knew they'd set up like 29 payment processors from someone else had told me. So I was like the level of attention to detail that they put into that is insane, which is why they get the result out the back end. So I think I would definitely agree with what Mike said in terms of always trying to take up a notch. And I think even when I worked in property beforehand, my gift was just kind of like proverbially making shit happen. I would kind of leave a bit of chaos behind me because I'd push so fast with things. That's when you have to kind of build a team and ecosystem with you to try and like hold the ship together as you try and go faster.
Very good. You became a PT,
yeah.
Then started and then helping PTs grow their business. Where did the real estate come in? And now you're not doing that, because now you're helping people scale their business and big.
2008, I became a personal trainer.
Yeah.
I hated it because I worked early in the mornings, worked in the evenings, wasn't making much money, and I kind of really failed at it. Short story, I then went and became a ski instructor for 4 months. I was already a qualified ski instructor. That's my main passion. Then I came back, realized I actually kind of need to get a job, and I actually thought I'd completely failed with life, because at 21, 22, maybe at that time, friends were coming out of university, they were getting good jobs, and I was just kind of felt like I'd failed. And I remember a good friend of mine got a job working for Knight Frank as a estate agent, had a nice car, had a suit, and I was like, that seems like a legit idea thing to do. And I just applied for a job on a whim, and then I ended up getting the job, and I became the branch manager there in like 2 years at stupidly young age, and we were making like £1 million a year in this agency. And I was there until I was 27, when I then launched my own online business and then left, because I realized working for someone else, I was never going to break through the ceiling of that business. So I earn more now than the managing director of a business with 2,000 employees. And I also realized that business was run on how long did you work there, and did you fit the narrative in terms of like playing the politics game, not what was your skill level, were you the best person there. It was very political, I think, in terms of how a lot of corporate businesses are run.
Yeah.
And that wasn't a game I either wanted to wait to play or wanted to play at all.
When did you realize that you had a personal brand and that was worth capitalizing on?
So that was probably 2015, 2016 when social media first started happening.
Yeah.
And I realized I was fortunate that there was a gym I used to work at and that had a couple of people with like decent social media followings back then. And I was like, just saw what was happening, the law of exposure 101, which is why you need to get yourself in the right rooms. And I was like, I can basically get people to get traffic and I can sell stuff for free. Well, I can do that. Like, other people are doing it. That's really like the way the human brain works, is if you can see someone else doing the thing, gives you the self-belief you can go and do it. And which is why we learn through like mirroring, which is why in-person events are so powerful for teaching. So that's really what gave me the catalyst to then start putting content online. I first started selling £40 PDF workouts on like email, which were terrible. And we scaled that business to generate over $12 million online selling fitness programs maybe.
So I think for someone listening to that, they're going, oh, but I could create something small and I can make good money from it. Because I think people do. Do you think there's still the gap for that now?
Availability for that. I actually said this to someone this morning because I saw a message on my Instagram DMs. It was like, oh, do you think the market's oversaturated? I was like, dude, you're a fitness trainer, so all you see is fitness trainers. In the United States, there is 25 times more people who are millionaires than people who have abs. So it's a frightening statistic. If you are a man and you're 35 and you make over $1 million a year and you have abs, there is between, and you're in the Western world, there's between 1,000 to 3,000 men like that at my age group.
Wow.
So you're officially a unicorn. So for anyone who's wants to be like successful, if you can do those two things that very few people manage to do, which can kind of like really separate you from everyone else.
Yeah.
And I also a big believer in, from a business perspective, that if someone is out of shape, not like you have to look like a Greek god, but if someone's like very out of shape, that's necessarily a bad sign, because you automatically, well, the guy's kind of like lacks discipline, hard work, like the things that make you in great shape just doesn't happen overnight. Like people understand that takes time. And I think that's getting more understood from a personal branding perspective.
Yeah, and the next steps. So where do you come in the business capacity now of helping people and in their business journey?
So our primary objective is to basically help people make more money at scale. So we help people from A to Z in terms of like click to close, almost from lead coming through to helping get client result. Where most people get stuck is at the beginning start. So like lead generation and sales. And this is, if you're going to sell a product that is going to be like one-to-one coaching, then there's only two things you need to focus on: booking sales calls and closing sales calls. And what I get incredibly frustrated and passionate about is people obsess over creating these massively complicated fulfillment in like ecosystems and websites. Like, dude, like, no one even knows who you are yet. Best known beats best. If people know who you are and you had the name in your little niche or whatever it is, you can have the worst websites in the world and you make loads of money. So that's where I think people sometimes, they do the right thing, but in the wrong order all the time.
Yeah. So someone starting out, and I think the one thing I hear is that they want more clients. I mean, people want to make more money, great. But to start with, they need to get more leads in and they need more people to hear about them. So if you're working with someone, how would you start that piece?
Firstly, I would look at what the target market is and who they are. And the first thing I would do now as well is I would also use AI very heavily for this. So a massive hack for everyone to do this, I would take the transcripts of any sales calls you have, I would run them through AI, and I'd ask them, ideally you want to have as many as possible, so like 20 to 50 is a good range. You want to make sure you then ask AI to pull out the top 10 pain points of your clients, would be the first thing I'd look at. And then I would ask, again, what are the big things that are constantly coming up that are pain points you can lean into? I would then ask AI to come up with 10 to 20 negative hooks you could use for marketing to psychologically trigger these people. Now, the second part of this, what I would do is I would ask best client to take an Ocean personality test, also upload that into AI and ask AI to manipulate the copy and the hooks to try and trigger that type of person. You might ask, why would I say a negative hook for a piece of content? If you look on the news, for example, when do you ever see anything good on the news?
Never.
So why do they do that? It's because they're using negativity to pull your attention in. So if I say to you, here's the 3 best things you can do to lose weight, or here's the 3 best food you can eat to lose weight, or here are the 3 foods you should never eat if you want to lose weight.
Oh yeah, you totally click on the 3
second
foods. Yeah,
absolutely. One, right? So that's really where you want to think about how can you manipulate people. When you start to see these things, you can't unsee them, and you start to look at everything with a kind of warped view of the world in terms of how you're being marketed to. So that would be the first step in terms of like, how do you create curiosity and pull people in top of funnel
in terms of your content, like social media content.
And your marketing, your message, and what does that essentially look like? And then the second thing I would look at is, okay, who is the demographic of the type of person you want to target, and platforms are they hanging out on? So if you want to target executive men, then there are some on TikTok, but probably not the best platform. LinkedIn, however, might be a way better platform for you to go and push on. I know we talked about that beforehand. And essentially then, once you have that kind of framework in terms of pain points, who you're trying to target, pushing content out on those platforms to then basically pull people in.
How often would you put out content if you're starting out?
As much as possible.
Trying to convince people on LinkedIn to post more than once a week and they get scared.
So I'll give a really good example of this. I'm not a massive fan of email marketing, but I'm going to talk about this anyway because it's just relevant for today. So Alex Hormozi's book launch, I screenshotted it. People are like worried about sending like 2 emails a week. I screenshotted. I think I had 14 emails on Saturday.
Wow. I had quite a few as well.
And also the reality, like, I don't even know what we posted last week. I have no idea. I have no idea what we posted. So my audience doesn't know.
And if you're the one that's creating it, and I don't know your team's putting it necessarily out there, but if you're going, I can't remember what the content was, then how are other people doing it?
And that's where I think, is that saying like volume negates luck, and Mike mentioned in terms of like consistency. I try and look at things from a content branding perspective of, I use one of Jeremy Harbour's words, like an asymmetric bet. At what point is this impossible? It doesn't work. If I make 3 YouTube videos, we post somewhere between 6 to 8 long form videos a week on YouTube across 3 accounts. At what point, if I continue to do that for 3 to 5 years, will I not have a massive personal brand? It's impossible.
It's the consistency thing. So which is your favorite platform?
So I would say 2. So I would say YouTube and LinkedIn. I'd say LinkedIn I like because of the level of content and intelligence of the content put out there. It's also, if you're a creator and you post on there, go and connect with me, it's very rewarding in terms of the distribution it has. So LinkedIn has more organic reach than any other platform. It's like Facebook, Instagram back in the day when it used to just push stuff for you. Secondly would be YouTube, because I like long form content and I like learning. I don't watch reels. Like from an Instagram reel, I'm not going to get anything in 30 seconds of any real value. I personally feel there's going to be a bit of a shift where that short form clips is going to start to drop off a little bit. And I think you're already starting to see it where carousels and long form captions are starting to get pushed more on those platforms.
My carousels are way outperforming any reels, whereas this time last year it was very different. But I'm with you on the LinkedIn. I mean, I hear so many stats, but 1 billion users, only 2% are active. You can be in that top 98% if you just post more than once a week.
It also has the highest average income per user of any other platform outside of podcasts.
I didn't know that one as well, which makes sense, to be honest.
So like one of the things we teach clients within some big scaling systems, like predominantly fitness, is basically how they can make 12K a month by just booking in like 4 sales calls a month, because the quality of avatar person on the platform is so much higher that they're willing to pay way more than people coming from TikTok or Instagram, for example.
So let's dive into that a little bit more. What would that look like? I mean, how would someone go and
so
get...
So if you look at LinkedIn, for example, so like if we look at basically the metrics we would look at, say if we want to say 6 calls booked, on LinkedIn, you're dealing with like the busiest people in the world, apostrophe. So let's say half of them show up, and then our goal is then to close one of them. And the price point we'd suggest anyone sells on LinkedIn is 3K. Realistically, I think people could sell for a lot higher prices than that. We have one coach, for example, he sells 25K coaching programs on LinkedIn. He targets very high-end people. But in essence, what you were doing, this is very easy implementable advice for anyone. Use the strategy I talked about with using AI to basically create content for you. Post on LinkedIn, try and get stuff to pop off that gets impressions and drive traffic into your account. One thing LinkedIn has a massive hack on is that over anything else is you can see who's clicked on your profile visitors. So what do you think they should do next?
Go message them and go, hey, how are you doing?
And a lot of people, particularly when they're new with their business, have, I don't want to message people. I want everyone to message me. It's like, at the beginning, it's not necessarily going to work like that. So like at the beginning, you have to kind of do some outreach and start some conversations. And yes, some people will message you. But the reality is, like, if, for example, I was a fitness coach and you come to my profile, Kelly, you're probably coming to my profile for a reason that you're interested in fitness or getting in shape. So therefore, me messaging you is like, oh, hey, Kelly, I saw you checked out my LinkedIn profile. What is it you're looking to get in shape for, looking to get help with? Fat loss or muscle building or increase your energy or whatever it might be. And I think the game of business, as whereas I see it online, it's essentially pushing out content, create conversations, then create calls. And that gives you clients. And we call it our 4C method, which we have a free course people can get access to for that. But LinkedIn is a really good platform to do that for high-end users, and also for people if they don't want to talk on camera, because you can use images and long-form
like
captions.
Cheat sheets and things like that.
Yeah, personally, I think they actually work way better. The videos don't perform as well on LinkedIn versus images.
Yeah, and I still try and post it. There's the authenticity, and we have content like this, and it shows something different, but mine always way underperform. So I've tracked my results since January, and we've grown. I've actually got a post coming up, so we've grown by 55%, which I'm really pleased since January. But I've worked out the best performing posts are ones where I talk about Dubai. If I have a nice picture of Dubai, way outperforms. And if I tell a story that's about another destination, or my best performing post was one I did a few weeks ago where I'd been in Sri Lanka. Now, I think half of Sri Lanka that is on LinkedIn is now following me. But I complimented and told a story that happened there. But it had, and I know this was one of the metrics that people are looking at now in terms of growth, is the reshares. And it had 70 reshares. Like, I've never had that on a LinkedIn post. I think maybe also back to how Instagram started. If you can create content that people want to reshare, when Instagram first started, I look back at my original account, I was sharing loads of other people's content. If you can do that on LinkedIn and get content that's shareable, I think it's huge.
Well, it's a driving engagement on LinkedIn. So what most people don't realize is that LinkedIn actually has true organic reach. So if you comment on one of my posts, my posts will get shown to your audience who don't even follow me.
Yeah.
Whereas that doesn't happen on any other platform. So that's where it's really, really powerful. And like some of the highest performing stuff I've had is literally not even, I didn't even put an image. It was just talking about like how the UK is a joke and you get ripped off for paying tax. And like, if you make, was actually the post, it got like 150,000 impressions, and it got way more followers than any other post. I don't know why, because it's slightly controversial, but it was basically talking about how to make 100k a year and like actual personal income into your bank account in the UK, I think you need to make like 170k.
Wow.
In Dubai is 100.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of playing off of that narrative, which then triggers people, and then you kind of get arguments in the comments, but then that feeds the whole thing out.
Very interesting point. I just wanted to come back to the point that you mentioned about messaging people. So I tried it on LinkedIn. Do you know Dan Mortel?
Yeah, I know Dan, yeah.
Yeah, so started following him, and he messaged me this really nice message, and I got really engaged, and I was like, ooh, I like this. So I looked at what he wrote and thought, I'm going to try this with my audience. So I went through, and everyone who'd followed me in the last week, I did outreach to them and got a call booked in. And I did it again the following week, and I got a client. Oh my God, I've been sitting on this. In the last 2 weeks, the results have come from this. Why have I not been doing it more?
And that's as easy as it is. And I see this a lot when people come to us to grow their business. And for example, I can think of someone particularly off the top of my head. She has a business that makes £40,000 a month. She gets, I think, maybe like 200 new followers a day. She doesn't do any outreach. She doesn't even take sales calls. And literally, I end up kind of like laughing on these calls sometimes. And I'm like, well, this is just like the easiest home run ever. Because it's like, if you just engage with those 200 people who follow you every single day, what's the likelihood you could sell them something? Pretty high. So sometimes the low hanging fruit is almost too obvious for some people, I think.
Yeah. So that scaling piece in the personal brand, then how do you then start scaling and still kind of be personal? What's worked for you?
Keeping that personal touch in things, I think, is where long form content comes in. So one of the things we will do is we'll send people a lot of like YouTube videos, so people kind of really get bought into me and the brand, because when you hear someone speak and you listen to them for more than 30 seconds in a reel, you tend to get a lot more bought into that person, because you can feel their energy, you can feel their vibe and kind of what they're about. The second thing I'd say in terms of like scaling it up and bringing people through is actually having a system to do it, which is kind of repeatable. But I also think even from keeping that authenticity, it's also how you show up online and on social media. So I see a lot of people, for example, with Instagram, it's just transactional. They're just trying to sell, or it's like generic polls or like, and all this crap. And the reality is people want to see and follow the hero's journey. And for anyone out there, you want to be the hero in your niche of what you do. So for example, if I help fitness trainers, it makes sense for me to be in really good shape and then train with the best trainers as well, go to the best gyms, show what I do, show all the weird supplements I do. And that's part of like the core brand of what we are. And I think a lot of people are too obsessed maybe with just trying to solve people's problems, like the how content, rather than the content about you and your backstory and storytelling.
I think that's a huge piece of storytelling. So then maybe let's come back into the story at the very beginning as to why and how did it find the story about when you were little?
I think that may be a sort of a website article for one of our old websites, I'd guess.
And then it's pulled that from it.
Yeah.
Wow, how interesting. What's one story that you think you've shared that has brought in the most amount of business? Like, was there one YouTube video that you told a story on, or was there something that you've shared in a talk?
I can give one in a YouTube video that immediately comes to mind. We made a YouTube video and talked about how I'd invested over $400,000 into personal development and mentors, and I went through like every person I kind of worked with. And we've had numerous clients come to us from the back of that, and the reason is because I practice what I preach. Like, the reason I was in Alex Hormozzi's building last week was because, again, I'm paying to learn the things I don't know, to pay down the ignorance tax, which is exactly what I sell to other people. It's like, we help you solve the problems that you don't even know how to solve yet, or you can't even see. And that's when it's congruent. But that's just, I think, why also people struggle with their business sometimes, because you're trying to sell how to get a six-pack, but you've never had a six-pack. And I think that's where like people aren't stupid. They can see through these things. Markets are much more maybe skeptical than they were maybe 5 years ago, where you have to be living proof. And I think one of the things to think about is like, at what point is it undeniable that you are the best person at what you do? Like, how can you stack so much social proof over and over and over again for years and years and years and just document all this stuff? So that, like, you go on ChatGPT or you Google the person or you go on YouTube, it's just endless reams of you.
Alex Hormozzi talked about that on the weekend, where he said the SME 500.
Yeah.
And I love that analogy. So for those that don't know, he talks about, and if he'd invested in the S&P 500 and took $1,000, I think that was the example. And he said, but if you invest in yourself, and it made me think about like one of my options, Brand New Elite, where it's like 10K. And I'm like, okay, 10%? Could people make 10% back? $1,000 after working with me? I'm like, and the rest. Like, it just seems like such a no-brainer offer. And you must feel the same.
And this is where I get frustrated with people, because people are always too worried about the cost and think about what it will cost, not what it will cause. So like the ramifications of you learning something you don't know that you can then apply for the next 20 years is huge. And I can give a great example of this. So I hired a speaking coach to help me public speaking. And I was like, I have no idea how much this is going to charge. So did like initial consultation call with her, and she was really, really good. And I was like, I'm definitely gonna sign up. And I'm like, comes to the price. I'm like, 10 grand? I don't know. And it was like $1,500. I was like, okay, like I'm in. Like, and I think this is also where sometimes, and you might have some clients who are like this, and we have some who we're transitioning out of this, who we have people who are great at what they do, but they're fearful of selling what they're worth. And you being afraid of selling what you're worth is the number one reason your business will never grow to the levels you want it to. Because also people who are maybe more high end will want to pay more, because they'll see, why do people buy Cartier bracelet instead of a Next bracelet? Because the brand, because the price associated with it. Why did I go to Alex Hormozi's headquarters last week when I could have just got his book for free? Because I understand that if I pay more, I'm going to learn more, and the payoff for me over the next few years on that is exponential.
I wanted to explore a little bit more on the YouTube. So I think that we've got LinkedIn, and I like the little strategy. If someone's thinking, okay, do you know what, maybe I should invest in YouTube. I know it's a beast. Like, I know it takes time, and it's definitely something that we're focusing on at the moment. What would be your best strategy for YouTube right now?
The only thing that matters on YouTube is three things. One is the title. Two, it's the thumbnail, and then it's the retention of the video. So like, you can have the best video in the world, but if the title's terrible and the thumbnail's terrible, it will do nothing. And again, you know, I said earlier, people worry about like chapter 12 rather than chapter 1.
Yeah.
People are worried about like making the perfect video, but there's no one's even want to look at this title, like, or the thumbnail's terrible. So I think that's the first thing I'd like obsess over, those three things. And at the beginning, I'd really kind of just push volume, because one of the things that we focus on teaching people when it comes to YouTube is the 5x5 method. So essentially where you'd have 5 different like buckets of like video titles. So for us, for example, it might be like how to make money, how to personal brand, like whatever, 5 different types of content, and then 5 specific video titles on each of those.
Yeah.
So you make 25 videos, and then you test all of those, and then what do? You look at the 25, which ones have performed well, which ones didn't perform. So for us, for our YouTube videos, we realized if we make videos on Dubai, they pop and we can get 50,000 views. So it's like, okay, cool. We'll make more videos based around Dubai as our top of funnel traffic. Because when we look at the analytics behind the video, the demographic of the individual is 35 to 50, male, from UK, US, exactly what I want. So, okay, cool, we can continue to make these videos. And then the same thing in terms of looking for the patterns of what's working, rather than making the same thing over and over again, expecting kind of like different results.
So you would put all those 25 videos out on YouTube and look at each one and go, right, that one performed better in that category, and that one did.
In YouTube, you get ranked of what's called 1 of 10. And the goal is to constantly try and get 1 of 10, which means like the video's number 1 ranked out the top 10 previous videos based upon its performance for how long it's been out. And YouTube is a difficult platform, I'd say, but it's the master platform. If you nail it on YouTube, like, you never have to worry about anything. So like, for me, why I like long form content is it's high leverage. I don't really like making reels anymore, because I'm like, in 2 weeks, no one really cares about this.
Yeah.
I'd rather actually spend the time making ads, because I can keep running the ad for 6 to 12 months. And we could talk about actually some organic and ads in a second. YouTube, from that side of things, is having different variety of content, testing what's going to work for your niche. And then I'd give a big hack in terms of, which will save people a lot of guessing, is if you get a software which is called 1of10.com, and you can search how to build a personal brand, for example, and it will show you videos which are what called outliers. And that would be, so for example, my channel, if the average video got 1,000 views, and I made a video on personal brand, it got 10,000 views, that would be an outlier. So you would then look at that video, maybe model the thumbnail, the title, and you're just looking for proven concepts of things that work rather than just guessing.
I have a challenge that my best performing content is reaction videos.
Okay.
And they're
on YouTube?
Yeah, like millions. I and my team keep saying, can you do more reaction videos? And I'm
What
like,
would be an example?
You're going to laugh when I tell you. So, like, I always love seeing how an advert and how it makes you feel, because that's, for me, it's all about personal branding, but from a brand perspective. So I did reaction videos on TV commercials in the Philippines called Jollibee, and they are incredible. I've done ones on insurance, I've done reaction videos, and they make me cry. Like, honestly, they are incredible. And I remember experiencing a first video went viral, millions of views. Like, when YouTube sent me the money, I'm like, oh my God, this is like free money. And my team keeps saying, do more reaction videos. But I'm like, yeah, but it's not directly related to what I do, but it's top of funnel, I think.
So I would flip that. Instead of doing things on the Philippines, I'd be like, okay, the Jaguar weird branding cock up they had.
Yeah.
And then look at how WH Smith's has changed their high street branding. You could talk about, like, do the same thing, but to like the UK, the US market, if that makes sense. Because then you're going to pull in people who are then marketing focused, who are interested in that area.
And a different way around. I did do a whole video, and actually I think it is a reel, and what I should do is make that a YouTube video with the brand Braymont watches, and they're very into storytelling, and the people that they pick to become their ambassadors have incredible stories. And I didn't know about this brand until my husband was saying watch shopping and going, oh, I think you'd like this. So I think taking that kind of content, talking about that as an ad or why they do that, but I actually did it short form only.
So that would be an example, I think, in terms of if you have, that's a proven concept, but you just need to tweak it to more your demographic of who you want. So the brands that your avatar of clients would be associated with, so many luxury cars, like why I mentioned the Jaguar thing. If it's British, the WH Smiths, whatever else, this is a weird marketing branding or like an ad that you can kind of do a reaction video and talk about. Like for me, one of the posts that went nuclear on LinkedIn maybe a week ago, got 500,000 impressions, was a side-by-side of WH Smith's branding, and I don't know what it's called, TD Jones or something stupid, the high street one that they kind of sold part of. And then like a kind of controversial copy in the caption just goes off with people like chiming in like, oh, I love WH Smith, oh, this is terrible. But then like that would be a great video for you, for example, because I talked about why WH Smith is struggling. Is it the name above the door? It's like, what do you actually go in there for? Because it sells many different things, but it doesn't really specialize anything. Because it's like,
true. Not anymore.
Well, yeah. So it's like from a marketing perspective, if you speak to everyone, you speak to no one.
I buy wrapping paper at Christmas from WH Smith.
You get that on Amazon now, though.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Absolutely. Let's touch on the ads and go, okay, if someone wants to invest a little bit more, where is the first thing? Because I think that could be a huge area where people spend a vast amount of money and it doesn't work for them. So
the first thing I would say for people is you have to learn a basic understanding of how Facebook ads and paid ads work. And the reason I say that is I see over and over and over again, people try and outsource paid ads and they have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. They just hire Steve down the street who says he can run Meta ads. Like, okay, cool, like you hired. But when you actually break down the fundamentals, like the ad agency that's not very good is probably not going to charge you a lot. And the reason they're not very good and they don't charge a lot is because they're not very good. And their goal at that point is just try and keep like you paying for as long as possible until you drop off, which is why they'll feed you along with things like, oh, we're just testing. It's like, dude, like you can know if a Facebook ad works in 3 to 5 days. In my opinion, you need to learn a basic understanding, which you can learn in 2-3 hours. If you go to my YouTube, I've got videos that will show you how to do it for free. Essentially what Facebook ads does is it allows you to turbocharge your business. Now I say Facebook ads because YouTube paid advertising has kind of been wrecked because of the YouTube premium feature. So by default, anyone who can pay £8 a month or whatever it is not going to see your ad. And anyone who doesn't want to pay £8 a month, you probably don't want coming through the ad. So I would stick to Meta. It's the easiest for targeting. And essentially what I would do is I'd look at your organic content, what's working. And if we say just look at Instagram, the easiest strategy to run, if we talk about what we want to do is get basically content and then into basically followers and conversations, is you create like a lot of top of funnel traffic where you would take your highest performing content, you would push it out on boosted reels, and you then just track the cost per follower for leads. And then you engage those leads and start conversations. A good metric in terms of like a cost per follower would be something like $1 or £1, depending on your ICA. From a more tactical version of that, if you literally, the biggest mistake you can do is put it on automatic from this podcast, and you put it on automatic, it will send it to the cheapest people possible. So Sri Lanka, India, like people who are probably not going to buy your product. But if you put United Kingdom, US, and then the demographics that you want age-wise, it'll push it specifically to that. But all we're literally trying to do is pull more people in top of funnel that you can then have a setter who can then message those people to create conversations. And that would be like the layer one of basic Facebook ads of how we get it to kind of work and convert. And then obviously you just need to track, okay, how much revenue did we make from messaging new followers? How much did we spend? That has to be done manually on this type of ad strategy because you can't automate it. But it's going to give you an estimate. But if you're like, I made $5,000 and I spent $500, okay, like spend more.
Yeah. Because then you can turn it up, I guess, and you can see.
Yeah, and you can just keep kind of scaling. And I'd say from that standpoint, like where most people get stuck on one ad, like kind of pushing it out, it's around £200 or $200 a month is where they could tap out. And what you're essentially doing, a lot of people on social media are constantly like draining the well of the ecosystem. They're just constantly selling and they're not bringing new people into the world. With paid ads, you can just constantly pull new people in. So you've constantly got new eyeballs, new people to sell to. But the second thing is you can then, when you've got these people, say for example, coming into this top of funnel, you can then retarget people who are coming through. Yeah. And one of the things that actually works best is you can do like a 75% view retarget. So if someone watches 75% of this podcast clip, they could then, for example, be retargeted with a direct sales ad to maybe book in a sales call. And if you run ads direct to call, that you can track like perfectly. We use a system called Hyros for that, which is kind of more high end, but that's essentially what I would look at as like basic terms of paid ads.
What do you think someone needs to start with to start advertising? Because I think you've got people that start with very little and then people don't. So what would you say?
We teach clients from day one to run paid ads now.
Really?
Because you can start and spend £10 a day.
Yeah.
So, and all you need is
it doesn't have to cost a fortune.
No, like you don't have to go and spend $40,000 a month. Like that's the reality is that you also get diminishing returns generally as you tend to increase your ad spend as you do with kind of anything. Like one of the fastest ways that we can grow people's businesses very quickly is, okay, we can basically get you unlimited traffic profitably. Like, cool, let's just do this then. And I think all you want to look for is initial proof of concept that something's working okay on organic. And then you can turbocharge that by slowly putting some ad spend behind it on the things you know that are already working, converting. But I say this, that you already have to have the sales systems on the back end, which is why it's booking calls and closing calls, because I know a lot of people in the fitness industry politely who are great at getting traffic, but are broke as hell because they're obsessed about vanity metrics of views and likes or whatever, but they don't actually make any money because they don't know how to do the second part,
which is the closing.
Yeah, which is closing, and how do you provide value to people who actually want to buy from you. So if you look at Alex Hormozi's masterclass at the weekend, essentially the reason his 6K thing was like undeniable by the time he kind of laddered everything out is like you kind of have to buy at that point. And also you've had so much value probably from him from free content, you almost feel guilt tripped into buying it.
Well, it was the way that he positioned it with, well, basically you're gifting 200 books. Do you want to help an entrepreneur? For me, that was gold in the way of, well, sure, you want to help entrepreneurs. I want to help entrepreneurs. That's the business that we're in. Okay, so gift 200 books and then you get all of this. I thought it was brilliant.
And it's positioning.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so good. So to kind of wrap up on a few quick fire questions. Loved all this value. We'll come back to how you've mentioned YouTube. You've got quite a few free things that we can maybe add in the links below for people. What do you think is the biggest personal branding mistake you see business owners make, or you've seen business owners make this year?
Hiding their personal, I'll give two, hiding their personal lives and trying to be someone they're not. So for example, I see people trying to like emulate me sometimes. I'm like, I look at the content and I'm like, dude, like just USPs that people should lean into. And everything can be like framing. I said earlier, everything can be flipped two ways. So for example, if you have a small business and you're like a solo entrepreneur, that's actually a massive selling point because you're going to work directly with you.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're going to look at like someone like Alex Hormozi, are you going to be sign up and work with acquisition.com? Are you going to be talking to Alex every day? No. So like, you have to kind of position it either way because you can flip the coin how you want. And
look at what the benefits are or what the things that are different there. One piece of content advice that could transform someone's results immediately.
Use negative hooks on the start of everything.
Oh, I like that. I'm going to go and research that. We'll have to have a little look in that space there. If you could use one marketing channel to grow someone's business, what would you pick? We've actually talked about top two now. If you could just pick one, would there be one?
Depends on what industry they're in. If they're in fitness, I would say Instagram. If you're in more of a business, B2B business, I'd say LinkedIn.
And would you not say YouTube only because you can actually make money from YouTube as well?
The problem with YouTube is it's our initial goal if someone comes to us to help you make money as quickly as possible. So something, for example, that this is a true story. I was at acquisition.com again in February and Alex said to me, it's like, one of the things you want to do is you want to make sure clients make money as quickly as possible as soon as they come through the door. He's like, have you got anything? I was like, It's like I had this thing that's like sick that we give to clients, but I wasn't giving it to them at the beginning because like this is too easy for them to make money, which is kind of backwards thinking. So we implemented this thing called a fast action cash play, and they made money straight away, and they believe in our systems even more so. So one of our things is to help people win really quickly. YouTube, unless you're a unicorn and it's unusual, you post your first video and it rips and you get loads of leads.
Okay, so that's interesting on that point. The thing about YouTube I do love is the content piece stays around forever versus the
100%.
reels and stuff. Like I get people still comment on my videos from like 2013 and they are looking at it as it's today. And I'm like, no, dude, look at the date. You know, it's not current. For someone who's listening, who's stuck at this $5,000 to $10,000 a month, what's one thing that they should focus on first to grow that?
Up their volume of what they're doing.
Through ads or content or everything?
Everything. This is not often the answer people would want. They're like, oh, I haven't got any more time. It's like, you do. Just look at like what could you're doing, like for example, we see people who post twice a week on Instagram. Like, oh, why is my business growing? Like, well, and you get leads when you post, right? It was like, yes. It's like, if you post every day, do you think you get more leads? It's like, yeah. So like, go and do that. So I think for most people, it's increasing the volume of what's working, like maxing that out would be the first thing I'd look at. And then secondly, probably even be maybe the pricing or the sales process on the back end of that. Because a lot of the times the biggest lever you can actually pull when you've got some proof of concept is the offer mechanism in terms of what you're pricing, what the guarantee is and how that whole thing kind of works.
I love it. You've shared so much value. How did you find this the other way around where I'm kind of asking?
No, I love it. I sit here all day and answer questions. So for me, like, I nerd out about business stuff. So all I do is kind of listen to business podcasts, watch business stuff on YouTube, read business stuff and talk on camera about business stuff. So
I love it. I love this format. I love everything that you've written down. How can people find you? What's the best way?
Best way to find me would be look at Instagrams at Charlie Johnson Fitness, YouTube if you put Charlie Johnson Scaling Systems or Charlie Johnson, and we've got 3 YouTube channels. And then we've also got and LinkedIn, you've just searched my name. We've also got a course which is free in school, which is for paid ads and organic content, which is it was our 4C method. It's now a 5C method because we added some more stuff into it. So I can give you the link you can drop below for that.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Loved it.
Thank you.